A real crime. In a series of podcasts, I want you to travel down some lonely roads with me. These are the roads I traveled with families who never got to say goodbye to loved ones. These family members were fated to live the rest of their lives waiting and wondering. I will begin this series with unsolved murders, but I will also revisit cases that include arrests because aspects of the case are worth re-examining. I wrote these stories when I worked as a reporter for the Charleston Gazette. Thanks for joining me today. I want to conclude information about a brutal murder I started last week, Trial and Mistrial, episode 32. Last week I explained that a beautiful young woman was murdered the night before she was scheduled to divorce her husband. Robert Eugene Carroll announced he would not pay child support to Cathy Carrroll, the mother of his son. He also asked several men if they would kill her for $5,000. In the Montgomery Heights neighborhood where the Carrolls lived, about half a dozen of his neighbors saw him in the area the day his wife was murdered. One witness testified that he saw Carroll and another man he knew about 200 feet from the Carroll house on the day of the murder. The witness saw Carroll in the company of a man several of the neighbors knew, Eddie Queen. Queen and his wife had businesses in Montgomery. Witnesses also saw Queen's 1978 dove gray Chrysler New Yorker at about 3 p.m. in Montgomery Heights. Queen has always denied any involvement in the two crimes. For decades now, armchair detectives had looked at this case that seemed to brim with clues. People who want to solve this case often start with the notoriously vicious dog Thunder that patrolled the yard. Thunder bit a neighborhood child in 1984, and the child had to be taken to Montgomery General Hospital for treatment. The child's family also brought a legal action to get the treatment paid for. The dog bit other people too. The dog was always loose in the yard. Many people said it was common for Cathy to have to put the dog up if a utility worker needed to enter the yard, or even if her parents visited. Perhaps Gene Carroll was in the neighborhood on the day of the murder to help the killer get past the dog and enter the house. After Cathy's daughter escaped the house on the evening of the murder, police arrived with sirens blasting. Thunder was on full "I am guarding my territory" alert. One police officer shoved the butt of his rifle in the dog's mouth, but the 15-year-old daughter was able to lead the dog into a neighbor's vehicle to allow police to enter the house. She wanted police to help her mother. No one was charged with these horrific crimes for about 20 years. Then Gene Carroll was charged with his wife's murder and taken to jail. In jail, he was diagnosed with cancer. His lawyer asked to release him from jail for his cancer treatments, but the judge ruled Carroll was closer to the cancer treatment center at the jail than he would be in his house in Fayette County. In previous hearings, prosecutors argued that if Carroll was out of jail, he could threaten and intimidate witnesses. One prosecutor argued that if Carroll was facing a murder charge and cancer, he might think he had nothing to lose. He stayed in jail and continued to take his cancer treatments. On October 31st, 2006, police arrested Eddie Gene Queen, who was 59 at the time and lived in Cross Lanes. They charged him with carrying out the rape and murder. The killer threatened the rape victim with a gun, but he did not use it to murder Cathy, so no bullet could be traced. The killer used a cord to strangle Cathy with, so his handprints were not on her neck. The only mark that might be traced to the killer was the U shape he slammed into her forehead. Once the trial got started, Judge John Hatcher and police officers led jurors on a tour of the Montgomery Heights house. Carroll went along too and followed jurors as the judge pointed out places inside and outside of the house where he once lived. In December 2006, a Fayette County Circuit judge announced that it was with a heavy heart he declared a mistrial in the Carrroll case. Judge John Hatcher was asked to make that decision after it was brought to his attention that there was probably misconduct in the witness room. The judge said he based his decision after it was brought to his attention that one witness was making statements about the case in front of other witnesses. Prosecutors returned to court to try Carrroll again, but jurors found him not guilty in 2007. 6 years later, at age 70, Carrroll died of cancer. In 2021, Carroll's defense lawyer, Ed Rebrook, died of COVID at age 72. Also in 2007, prosecutors dismissed charges against Queen. Then Fayette County prosecutor Carl Harris said if jurors did not find Carrroll guilty, he did not think he could make another set of jurors bring in a guilty verdict against Queen. The age of this case worked against a resolution. One of Queen's lawyers, Lonnie C. Simmons, noted in a motion to dismiss that police first questioned Queen April the 25th, 1986, 3 days after the rape and murder. Then more than 20 years passed before Queen was arrested. Simmons pointed out that police always knew where Queen was during those decades. A delay in the time a crime is committed and an arrest could constitute a violation of Queen's due process rights. Simmons went on to write that he was not aware of any recently discovered evidence or witnesses to justify this delay. If Queen's case had come to trial, he would say he could not have been inside the Montgomery Heights house. He would say he was in another community west on West Virginia 61, Marmette, 12 miles away, with former Major General Alan Tackett of the West Virginia National Guard. Tackett started boxing as a teenager and then served on the State Boxing Commission. They were talking about Queen joining the West Virginia Boxing Commission, Queen's lawyer wrote in his statement. Queen also started boxing in his youth and then became a boxing promoter. Tackett was expected to testify that Queen was with him until at least 3 p.m., the time Cathy's daughter would have gotten to her house from school. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to Tommy Siner for his great recording, and to Brenda Pinnell for her excellent technical work. Please join me next Wednesday for a new episode of A Real Crime by Susan Williams.